Feynman once raised something unsettling. Not about equations, not about particles, something far stranger. He said, imagine this. Pinch yourself lightly. Feel that sensation. There is something there. Something aware. Something experiencing. Now comes the disturbance. Feynman said we know the ingredients. Carbon atoms. Hydrogen atoms. Oxygen atoms. Nitrogen atoms. We know the structure. 86 billion neurons. 100 trillion connections. Electrical impulses firing. All of it matter. Just atoms interacting. But then he asked quietly, where is the feeler? Point to it. You point to your head. Everyone does that. But open the skull. Look carefully inside. You find tissue. You find chemistry. You find voltage changes. You find moving ions. You never find redness. You never find pain. Feynman would pause here, then ask gently, where is experience hiding? Take color as example. Light hits objects. Photons scatter outward. They enter your eye. Retina activates signals. Electrical pulses travel inward. Visual cortex responds. Patterns emerge. Then something extraordinary happens. You see red. But light is not red. It is wavelength. Around 700 nanometers. Neurons are not red. They are electrochemical events. Sodium flows inward. Potassium flows outward. So where did red appear? Feynman loved this gap, because physics stops there. Physics describes wavelength. Physics describes charge. Physics describes fields. It never describes feeling. Philosophers use a word, qualia, the felt quality, the inner texture. Not data, not behavior, experience itself. Feynman once reflected poetically, standing by the sea, watching the surf, mountains of molecules, moving without awareness. Trillions apart, yet forming white foam, and there he stood, atoms with consciousness. Matter asking questions, a universe of atoms, an atom in universe. He would then ask directly, how do atoms awaken? Most people answer quickly. The brain does it. Feynman would not accept that. He said that as label, not explanation. He offered comparison. Ask how car moves, you say engine. Ask deeper question, fuel ignites, gas expands, pressure builds. Pistons drive crankshaft, wheels rotate forward. Each step clear, each link physical. Now attempt same chain. Photons strike retina, signals move along nerves, neurons fire in patterns. And then suddenly, there is experience. Where is that mechanism? What transforms electricity into inner awareness? Nobody can show it. Not missing details, missing principle entirely. Feynman respected honesty. He admitted ignorance openly. He said this puzzle is not minor. It strikes foundation. Because physics studies systems externally. Consciousness exists internally. That divide is radical. A philosopher named David Chalmers called this distinction the hard problem. Easy problems remain solvable. How brain integrates signals. How it guides behavior. How memory stores patterns. Hard problem different. Why does processing feel? Why is there something? It is like to be you. Feynman sharpened it further. Imagine perfect machine. Sees like you. Speaks like you. Responds like you. Inside complete darkness. No inner movie. No subjective presence. Is that possible? Physics alone cannot answer. Equations predict motion. They predict forces. They predict probabilities. They never predict experience. Nothing in quantum field equations. Nothing in Maxwell equations. States that matter feels. That silence matters. Another thinker enters here. Thomas Nagel posed famous question. What is it like to be a bat? Bats navigate by sonar. They emit pulses. Echoes return patterns. We can describe mechanism. We can measure frequency. We can model signals. But can we feel it? We imagine our version. Not bats' reality. Experience is viewpoint bound. It exists from inside. Science views outside. That tension remains unresolved. Brain contains scattered processors. Vision in occipital region. Sound in temporal cortex. Touch in parietal areas. Color handled separately. Shape handled elsewhere. Motion handled differently. Yet perception feels unified. One apple, one experience. How does binding occur? Some propose synchrony. Neurons firing together. Gamma rhythm oscillations. Interesting correlation exists. But synchrony explains timing, not subjective unity. Even synchronized circuits do not explain feel. Why does unity feel unified? Why is there experiencer? Feynman would not fake certainty. He would say honestly, we do not know. And that ignorance is intellectually important. Because it signals boundary. He sometimes entertained possibility. Consciousness might be fundamental. Not product only. Not mere byproduct. Perhaps basic feature like mass, like charge, like space-time curvature. If so, reduction stops here. New laws required, connecting physics and awareness. Until that day, mystery stands firm, and atoms continue asking. Feynman would push further. He would not stop early. He said, consider this carefully. Your brain contains billions, 86 billion neurons, each neuron connecting thousands, 100 trillion connections total, a number beyond intuition. If you counted nonstop, one number per second, it would take millions years. Yet all that complexity still does not explain feeling. Neurons fire constantly, signals cross synapses, chemicals diffuse briefly, electrochemical storms everywhere. But storms are not experiences. Here is another detail. Different brain regions specialize. Vision in the back, sound along the sides, touch across the top, color processed separately, shape in another region, location somewhere else, motion in another circuit. Yet perception feels seamless. You do not see fragments, you see one apple. One unified presence. Feynman asked quietly, how does binding happen? How do scattered firings become single awareness? Researchers suggest synchrony, neurons firing in rhythm, 40 cycles per second. Gamma oscillations observed. Interesting phenomenon indeed. But synchrony describes coordination, it does not describe experience. If neurons align perfectly, why should that alignment feel? Even more troubling question. Neurons in my brain fire. Neurons in your brain fire, some at similar frequencies. Yet we do not merge. Your experience remains yours, mine remains mine. Why does unity stop? At the skull boundary. Neurons do not know ownership. They simply exchange ions. So what defines boundary? What makes your neurons? Your consciousness only. Feynman would admit plainly, we do not understand. Then he would go deeper. Consider atoms themselves. 7 octillion atoms, that is brain estimate, 7 with 27 zeros. Atoms built from particles. Protons, electrons. Protons contain quarks, electrons appear fundamental. Now ask something subtle. Remove one atom, are you still conscious? Of course you are. Atoms constantly replaced, breathing replaces them, metabolism swaps them. 7 years pass, almost every atom different, yet you feel continuous. So consciousness not tied to specific atoms. It depends on arrangement, on dynamic pattern. But atoms mostly empty. Nucleus extremely tiny, electron cloud probabilistic. Forces electromagnetic in nature. When you touch table, you never truly touch. Electrons repel electrons. Everything is fields interacting. So brain not solid object. It is dynamic field pattern, shifting energy configuration. And somehow that dance knows it is dancing. Feynman loved that paradox. He sometimes explored idea, consciousness and fields connected. Neurons generate electric fields. Magnetic fluctuations also present. These extend beyond tissue. Measured by EEG signals, measured by edge scans. Some researchers speculate boldly. Perhaps field is seat of unified awareness. Field integrates globally, unlike scattered neurons. When neurons synchronize, fields constructively combine. When desynchronized, fields partially cancel. Interesting proposal indeed. It could address binding, because field inherently unified, but problem persists. Magnets produce fields, radios produce fields, lightning produces fields, light would brain field feel. Field theory still physics. Physics still external description. No equation predicts redness, then another proposal arises. Quantum mechanics involved perhaps. Particles exist superposed. Entanglement links distant states. Measurement changes outcomes. Strange domain indeed. A mathematician named Roger Penrose proposed possibility, with collaborator Stuart Hameroff. Quantum processes inside neurons, within microtubule structures, might generate consciousness. Bold hypothesis offered. But brain is warm. Brain is noisy, quantum coherence fragile. Most physicists skeptical. Yet even if true, mystery remains intact. Quantum equations describe probabilities. They do not describe feeling. Calling consciousness quantum does not explain experience. It relocates mystery. Feynman warned about this. Adding complexity helps nothing. If you cannot explain classically, adding quantum mysticism useless. Then he explored thought experiment. Imagine recording everything. Every neuron firing. Every chemical release. Every voltage fluctuation. Complete brain snapshot captured. Store information digitally. Now replay perfectly. In artificial system, exact same patterns occur. Does experience arise? If yes, then why? If no, then why? If slow playback occurs, is experience slower? If reversed playback happens, does experience reverse? If scrambled randomly, does experience vanish? Signals still present, components still included. Difference lies in structure, in temporal organization. So consciousness depends on structure. But what structure exactly? Then comes deeper version. Write all particle positions, all states at moment. Print them in book, massive detailed book. Is book conscious? It contains same information as your brain instant. Most would say no, because no processing occurs, no dynamic flow present. So consciousness requires activity, change over time. But hurricanes change, whirlpools change, economies change. We do not attribute awareness. So activity insufficient, complexity insufficient, information insufficient. Something else required. Feynman admitted uncertainty. He said this boundary marks frontier of science. We can map correlations, but correlation not explanation. Brain region active, experience accompanies. That is association. Like thermometer reading, correlates with temperature. Thermometer does not create heat. Finding neural correlate does not explain consciousness. It identifies location only. So after centuries progress, after physics revolutions, after neuroscience advances, core mystery untouched, why does any processing feel? Feynman respected that silence. He believed honest confusion. Better than false clarity. Because real discovery begins. And here comfort ends. Feynman would lean back, then sharpen the blade. He would say, consider this, science explains relations, not intrinsic being. Mass relates to force, charge relates to field, energy relates to motion. Physics maps interactions, it never tells what something is, in itself. An electron has charge, an electron has spin, an electron has mass. But what is electron? Equations describe behavior, not inner nature. Now apply same lens. Brain has neurons. Neurons have voltage. Voltage has dynamics. We describe correlations. We measure activity, we observe patterns. Yet the essence escapes. Feynman admired precision. He would warn carefully. Do not confuse model with reality itself. A map guides traveler. It is not terrain. Neuroscience maps brain. It is not mind. Something feels left out. That something is central. Suppose physics completes itself. Unified field discovered. All constants derived, all particles explained. Grand equation written. Would that equation mention pain? Would it contain color? Scan every symbol. Integrate every term. You will find curvature. You will find symmetry. You will find operators. You will not find sorrow. That absence matters deeply. Because consciousness is not small. It is immediate. It is undeniable. Doubt everything else. You cannot doubt awareness. Even doubt appears inside it. Feynman respected that certainty. He knew physics rests on observation. But observation requires observer. Without awareness, no measurement occurs. Detectors record signals. But awareness reads detectors. This creates strange loop. Physics depends on observers. Observers are physical systems. Circular tension emerges. Some argue illusion. Consciousness is trick. Brain misrepresenting itself. Feynman would ask calmly, illusion for whom? If pain illusion, something still feels it. If self-illusion, illusion appears somewhere. You cannot eliminate experiencer by renaming it. The problem survives. Another angle appears. Maybe language fails. Perhaps experience irreducible, like existence itself, cannot be defined further. Red is red. Pain is pain. Primitive fact. But science seeks reduction. Reduction demands components and bridging principles. Without bridge laws, gap remains unclosed. Feynman liked bridges. Between electricity and magnetism, between space and time, between mass and energy. Each bridge precise, mathematical, testable. Where is bridge here? Between neuron firing and taste of coffee. Between synaptic pattern and memory warmth. Between cortical rhythm and sense of self. We describe parallel tracks. Physical track running, experiential track running. They align mysteriously. But alignment not explained. This puzzle call explanatory gap, term used by Joseph Levine. Gap between physical story and subjective reality. Feynman would not panic. He would remain curious. He might suggest possibility, maybe categories incomplete. Maybe matter misunderstood. What if matter, not purely external? What if inside matter lies proto-experience? Radical thought, yet history shows concepts evolve drastically. Time once absolute, until Albert Einstein intervened. Space bent by gravity, mass converted to energy, intuition shattered before. Perhaps again necessary. Still caution essential. Speculation without evidence becomes metaphysics untethered. Feynman valued experiment. Show measurable consequence, show predictive power. Otherwise remain humble. So he stood balanced. Not denying mystery. Not inventing fantasy. Simply acknowledging boundary, and boundaries inspire progress. When physics met heat, mystery dissolved slowly. When physics met light, quantum theory emerged. Perhaps when physics meets mind, new revolution begins. But until that day, we sit with paradox. Matter producing mind, mind studying matter. Universe becoming aware of its own structure. Atoms contemplating atoms, that fact alone is astonishing. And Feynman loved astonishment. He would end softly. The mystery remains open. And open questions drive science forward. Feynman would slow down, almost whisper. He would say, notice something. For billions of years, universe expanded silently. Stars formed, galaxies rotated, planets cooled, no questions asked. Just matter moving, blindly obeying equations. Gravity curved space-time, fields vibrated quietly. Then something changed. On small blue planet, chemistry grew complex. Molecules replicated, cells organized, nervous systems formed. Eventually brains appeared. And inside those brains, experience flickered on. Universe began noticing itself. This is extraordinary. Hydrogen from ancient stars. Carbon forged in supernova. Atoms assembled carefully. Until arrangement emerged. That could wonder. Feynman loved that image. Not mystical. Not supernatural. Just atoms arranged in curious patterns. Yet asking profound questions. How can that be? How can blind particles produce inner light? No equation predicts wonder. Maxwell's laws describe fields. Schrödinger's equation predicts probabilities. Neither mentions meaning. Yet meaning appears inside fragile biological systems. That contrast stunned him. Science explains structure, but structure hosts mystery. We can map cortex, layer by layer. We can measure spikes, millisecond precision. Still the taste of chocolate escapes instrumentation. Still the color sunset lives privately. Feynman respected privacy. Not secrecy but subjectivity. Each consciousness isolated, locked from direct access. You infer others' minds, through behavior only. You never enter them. This loneliness profound, and yet connection exists. Through language, through shared symbols. We build bridges. Between private worlds. Physics one such bridge. Equations universal. Observers replaceable. But consciousness remains singular. Always first person. That dual nature fascinates. Objective science rising from subjective awareness. Matter describing itself. Feynman would smile here. He might say gently. Maybe mystery not flaw, maybe feature. Perhaps universe requires inner perspective. Not separate from matter, but deeper layer, still physical, yet not fully captured by current vocabulary. History teaches humility. When electricity mysterious, new framework emerged. When time misunderstood, relativity transformed view. When stability unexplained, quantum mechanics appeared. Each revolution uncomfortable, each revolution necessary. Consciousness may demand similar bold expansion. Or perhaps not. Perhaps explanation simpler, hidden in plain sight. Feynman would refuse prediction. He preferred curiosity alive. He warned against certainty, especially premature certainty. Better honest ignorance than confident illusion. So where do we stand? We stand inside awareness. Using awareness, to study awareness through tools built by unaware atoms. Paradox almost poetic, yet complete and natural. No magic required, only arrangement. Arrangement still unexplained, and that is acceptable. Science unfinished story. Questions more important than temporary answers. The mystery of experience remains open frontier. Not outside universe, but at its core. Every thought you have, evidence of puzzle. Every sensation felt, proof of gap. Physics describes world, consciousness reveals world. Two sides intertwined. One day perhaps, bridge will appear. Mathematics extended, concepts refined, language reshaped. Until then, we live inside miracle, too ordinary to notice. Atoms feeling warmth, atoms feeling sorrow, atoms feeling curiosity, atoms asking why. And Feynman would conclude, the fact that matter can wonder about matter is already astonishing enough. The mystery remains, and that mystery is beautiful.